She combined these qualities with warmth, humor, and an unerring ability always to see the best in people.
5 minutes ago, the future of the British monarchy was rewritten behind closed doors. King Charles did not simply offer praise, assign another duty, or make a symbolic gesture. He formally crowned Prince William and Catherine as his exclusive successors, placing the crown's future entirely in their hands. The announcement lasted only minutes, but when the king finished speaking, no one in the room dared to move. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Charles summoned William, Catherine, Queen Camilla, Princess Anne, Prince Edward, and advisors into an audience room at Buckingham Palace. Phones vanished into cases. Aides waited beyond the doors. Even the king's private secretary, the official managing his schedule and confidential papers, had not been told the purpose. That secrecy mattered because succession planning shapes who carries authority when one reign ends and another begins. This was not routine preparation. It was a controlled rupture. William entered expecting another discussion about duties. Then his father spoke the words, "exclusive successors," and the prince's expression tightened. Charles declared that he and Catherine alone would guide the monarchy's next era, protect continuity, and prepare jointly for the transfer of royal authority. The crown, meaning the institution of the monarchy rather than a piece of jewelry, would now look to them as its future center. William lowered his eyes. Honor had arrived, but so had an irreversible burden. Catherine felt the meaning before anyone dared respond. She reached beneath the table and gripped William's hand, carrying pride, fear, and the knowledge that her family's privacy had narrowed. Charles noticed. He stopped for one breath, then placed a red folder before them. Inside sat a signed declaration, a formal written order recording the king's decision, alongside a revised framework for royal duties and limits stopping any rival household from claiming equal succession authority. Camilla waited for her name. It never came. The queen leaned back as her chair scraped against the floor, and Charles did not look toward her. Anne watched the monarch. Edward remained rigid, sensing that the silence surrounding Camilla was not accidental. The future had been assigned without her influence, approval, or protection. Charles dismissed everyone except William and Catherine. Camilla rose slowly, but before leaving, she heard him tell the couple that this decision could no longer be delayed. William asked why. The king refused to answer until the door had closed, but the true force of the announcement could not be understood through titles or signatures alone, because every person seated around that table had something deeply personal to gain, and something devastating to lose. A crown does not land on one head without casting a shadow over another. For William, the announcement carried the weight of a destiny he had spent his entire life preparing to face. For Catherine, it transformed years of discipline into a permanent national obligation. For Charles, it was a confession that time had become precious. And for Camilla, it sounded like a door being closed while she was still standing inside the room. William remained seated after the others left, but his mind moved years ahead. Since childhood, the prince had known he would inherit the throne, yet knowledge had never made the prospect gentle. He remembered the loneliness royal duty had placed around his early life. Now George, Charlotte, and Louis stood closer to that same machinery. Succession planning, the preparation for one monarch to be followed by the next, was no longer abstract. It had entered his home. Catherine felt that danger sharply. Charles had not merely named her as the future queen beside William. He had made her an equal pillar in shaping the next reign. Her judgment, public trust, and family stability had become essential because the crown could not endure another generation defined by private war. Yet the honor carried a cost. She asked what the declaration would mean for their children, and her controlled voice almost broke when she wondered how much privacy they had left. Charles studied his son. He asked whether William resented being handed the burden so suddenly. The future king replied that he resented learning of the decision after the document had been signed. His father absorbed the answer in silence. Then the monarch admitted that he had watched public confidence move toward the couple whenever uncertainty struck. Tradition alone, he said, could no longer hold the institution together. The monarchy needed the two people the public trusted instinctively. Camilla heard none of that explanation. In a sitting room, the Queen received a summary from an aide, removed her reading glasses, and placed them on the table. She asked why the arrangement had been prepared without consultation from the Queen Consort, the sovereign spouse, who supports the monarch but does not inherit his constitutional authority. The aide offered no answer. Her humiliation deepened, because exclusion from the process meant exclusion from the future. Anne paused beside William before leaving. She told him that Charles had not acted because of one difficult week. Months earlier, something had happened that made the old balance of power dangerous. Anne's warning changed the meaning of the entire ceremony, pointing away from the triumph, inside Buckingham Palace, and back toward the private incident that had forced Charles to act. The decision did not begin with a crown, a declaration, or a carefully prepared palace meeting. It began during a winter reception at Windsor Castle. When one private conversation exposed a fracture Charles could no longer ignore. There were no cameras in the corridor, no crowds beyond the windows, and no official record of what followed. Yet everyone involved would later remember that night as the monarchy's point of no return. Charles had sensed the pressure building for months. His court, William's household, and Camilla's circle had begun pulling royal responsibilities in different directions, turning patronages, public messages, family access, and future planning into contests of influence. A royal household, meaning the team of advisors and staff serving a family member, was supposed to support duty. Instead, three centers of power were competing to decide who could speak for the crown's future. The king grew disturbed as contradictory instructions reached staff. Decisions approved by William and Catherine were delayed, softened, or reconsidered before they reached him. He began asking why promises he remembered making had vanished from briefing papers. The answers were cautious, too cautious. Catherine's initiatives appeared most often, and each delay carried the same hidden message. Her authority could be praised publicly while being weakened privately. Camilla exposed the fracture during the Windsor reception. Charles paused outside an adjoining library and heard the Queen tell a senior courtier that no transition plan involving William and Catherine should move forward without passing through her household. A transition plan was the organized preparation for shifting duties and authority toward the next reign. The monarch entered and asked whether she had been countermanding his son. She denied betrayal and insisted she was protecting him from pressure to surrender power early. William arrived later without his father's hesitation. He placed a briefing folder on Charles's desk and said he would not compete inside a divided court. If his role carried no genuine authority, the prince would step back rather than fight publicly for influence. His refusal struck harder than anger, because it showed how close the family stood to fracture. Charles reviewed the files alone. Catherine's name appeared again and again beside projects he had approved, yet several had been blocked or redirected. At 12:17 a.m., the king summoned his private secretary and ordered a confidential succession framework, a written structure defining future royal authority, naming William and Catherine together. Then he gave one command: Camilla must not see it until it was complete. That midnight order remained hidden for months, but when Camilla finally understood what Charles had prepared, silence was no longer possible. And neither was avoiding the confrontation waiting behind the king's closed door. The palace had survived abdications, betrayals, and family divisions. But this confrontation was different, because it unfolded between the two people at the center of the will. Camilla did not enter Charles's study as a ceremonial queen seeking clarification. She entered as a wife who believed she had been shut out. The king remained behind his desk, the signed declaration between them, while years of loyalty and resentment collided in a single question. Camilla dismissed her aide and entered without waiting for permission. The door struck the frame hard enough to make the guard outside turn. Charles did not rise. He kept the signed folder on his desk and told her the decision had already taken effect. A declaration, meaning a formal written statement carrying the monarch's authority, could still be amended in theory. This one would not be. No consultation, compromise, or private appeal would change William and Catherine's exclusive status. The king would never retreat. Camilla stared at him and asked whether he had chosen his son and daughter-in-law over the woman who had stood beside him through decades of hostility. Her anger burned first, but hurt soon replaced it when Charles failed to answer. She reminded him of every year they had endured together. He listened, then removed his glasses with a trembling hand and placed them beside the document. Charles answered quietly. Marriage had given them companionship, loyalty, and refuge, he said, but it had not given either of them ownership over the monarchy's future. The crown had to survive beyond their private bond. He then named the breach. Private efforts had slowed Catherine's projects, challenged William's authority, and allowed personal influence to interfere with constitutional preparation, the organized process that readies the institution for its next sovereign. Camilla opened the folder herself. Her eyes stopped on the final clause, a binding section preventing any consort, advisor, or secondary household from overriding instructions issued jointly by William and Catherine during the transition period. A consort was the monarch's spouse, important in public duty, but without independent ruling power. She understood the message immediately. The restriction had been written because Charles no longer trusted the old boundaries to hold. William arrived outside for a scheduled briefing, just as Camilla raised her voice. "You have made him king before his time." The prince froze. Charles crossed the room, opened the door, and told his son to enter. Camilla turned toward him, and William saw that the argument was no longer hidden. With William now standing between his father and Camilla, the argument stopped being a private, marital wound, and became a direct struggle over who truly possessed the power to shape the crown. The most powerful part of Charles's decision was not the public symbolism of crowning William and Catherine as successors. It was the machinery hidden beneath it. The declaration transferred no throne that day, yet it reorganized access, influence, and command throughout the royal household. Behind polished language lay an unmistakable message. The future king and queen would no longer wait politely, while others decided what they were permitted to control. William stood between Charles and Camilla, refusing to let the argument turn into a public humiliation. He told his father that he would not accept authority designed to diminish the queen or make it appear that the prince was pushing the monarch aside. The declaration placed long-term planning, senior appointments, national initiatives, Commonwealth strategy, and preparation for the next reign under joint supervision. The Commonwealth was the voluntary association of nations linked by shared history and cooperation. That reach made the decision far more than ceremonial. Charles did not soften. He remained sovereign, meaning the reigning monarch who still carried constitutional authority and performed the duties of the crown. But William and Catherine would become the only recognized architects of its future direction. The king pushed the folder toward his son and warned that refusing the burden would protect no one. It would merely leave the same struggle alive, waiting to erupt again. Leadership, he said, could not always wait for comfort. Camilla heard the warning for what it was. Her ceremonial standing would remain, yet the machinery of tomorrow had moved beyond her reach. She asked whether William truly understood what accepting would do to the family. The future king answered that he understood exactly why hesitation had become dangerous, but he still would not sign while anger controlled the room. Catherine entered after being summoned and read the final clause in silence. The framework, a written structure defining how future authority would operate, required her signature beside William's. She was not being treated as a decorative companion. Her consent was essential. Catherine asked Charles and Camilla to leave, then turned William's signet pen, a personal pen carrying a royal emblem, between her fingers. She told him they could accept only if they led without revenge. William agreed. Together, they signed. Then Catherine issued their first joint instruction. Every decision delayed, altered, or blocked during the previous year would be reviewed, including orders connected directly to Camilla's household. Charles looked at them and understood that the authority he had granted was already moving, without his permission. The signatures were barely dry when the consequences began moving through the palace, reaching offices, advisors, and family members who had assumed the old system would protect them. By the time the first confidential notices reached royal offices, the palace had already changed. Doors that once opened automatically now required authorization. Meetings disappeared from calendars. Advisors who had spoken with confidence only hours earlier began checking every instruction twice. Yet the most revealing reaction came not from a courtier or official. It came from Camilla, sitting alone as her private secretary explained exactly how much influence had vanished with 2 signatures. Senior staff felt the shift immediately. Every strategic proposal now had to pass through William and Catherine's joint office before reaching Charles for final approval. A joint office was the shared team authorized to act for both future leaders, combining their decisions instead of allowing separate households to compete. The change mattered because access created influence, and influence had long decided which ideas reached the king and which quietly disappeared. Careers, loyalties, and reputations now depended on a system that no longer rewarded access to competing centers of power. Camilla retained her charities, public duties, and ceremonial standing, but her household could no longer intervene in succession planning, Wales family decisions, or long-term appointments. Her private secretary read each restriction aloud. The Queen remained motionless until the final paragraph, then closed the notice and said, "So this is how they intend to remember me." Her voice was quieter than anger. She understood that dignity remained, but control had gone. Catherine felt no triumph. She learned that several long-serving aides might be reassigned during the review, and the human cost disturbed her. The future queen personally ordered that no employee be dismissed merely for obeying previous instructions. William supported her decision, though he warned that compassion could not become an excuse for hiding interference. She agreed. Knowing mercy without truth would only preserve the same danger beneath a kinder name. The review soon uncovered something darker. A concealed memorandum proposed reducing Catherine's public role during future periods of royal transition, so another household could gain greater visibility. A memorandum was an internal written note used to record advice or proposed action. Charles read it twice. Phrases inside matched words Camilla had used during their Windsor confrontation, proving that the attempt to limit Catherine had been organized, repeated, and protected. William expected immediate consequences. Instead, Catherine folded the document and asked to meet Camilla privately. The prince questioned whether that was wise, but she refused an easy victory. Before judgment, the queen deserved one chance to explain the memorandum without advisors, courtiers, or Charles shaping the conversation. That request transformed Catherine from the protected successor into the person willing to face the conflict directly, setting the stage for a meeting neither woman could avoid. No secretaries entered, no husbands waited beside them, no royal protocol softened the conversation. Catherine and Camilla sat opposite one another with only the disputed memorandum resting between them. One woman had just been elevated as the monarchy's essential future. The other had watched her influence collapse in a single afternoon. Yet when Catherine finally spoke, she did not accuse Camilla of treachery. She asked one question: "Were you afraid of me?" Catherine had chosen a sitting room at Clarence House, the London residence used by Charles and Camilla, rather than a palace chamber. She arrived without William because his presence would have turned honesty into defense. Camilla dismissed her staff and closed the door herself. The Queen understood that no aid could soften what waited between them, and Catherine knew no husband should answer in either woman's place. Catherine pushed the memorandum across the table. A memorandum was an internal written record proposing action, and this one recommended limiting her public role, delaying her initiatives, and preserving a separate line of authority through Camilla's household. The future queen explained why that mattered. It threatened not only her work, but William's ability to lead, and her children's freedom from another generation of palace rivalry. Camilla did not deny approving it. She admitted during their conversation that Catherine's popularity had frightened her because history seemed to be repeating itself. Another Princess of Wales was becoming beloved while the woman beside Charles remained distrusted, and compared unfavorably. The Queen said advisors had warned that Catherine's growing influence would erase what relevance she had fought to build. Catherine listened, but she refused to inherit resentment created before she entered royal life. She would not accept punishment for wounds she had not caused. Her voice stayed calm until she spoke of George, Charlotte, and Louis. Then her eyes filled. She feared that private jealousy would eventually reach the children and teach them that love, inside the family, always came with a price. Camilla revealed that the memorandum's harshest language had come from those advisors, though she accepted responsibility for allowing it. Catherine offered dignity, not power. She promised no public humiliation and no attack on the Queen's charitable work, but interference in William's household and the children's future would end. Camilla remained silent, then slid the document back and told Catherine to destroy it. She also agreed to stand beside Charles when the declaration was publicly confirmed, knowing the appearance would acknowledge her defeat. The private conflict had reached its human resolution, but the monarchy still faced one final test: how the world would respond when the palace revealed that its future now belonged exclusively to William and Catherine. At precisely 9 o'clock, the palace statement appeared. Within seconds, phones lit up across Britain, broadcasters interrupted their programs, and newspaper editors tore apart prepared front pages. The announcement used careful constitutional language, but the public understood its emotional meaning instantly. Charles had chosen William and Catherine not only as the next royal couple in line, but as the exclusive guardians of everything the monarchy hoped to become. Buckingham Palace confirmed that William and Catherine had been designated the king's exclusive successors in strategic leadership and long-term preparation. The palace statement, an official public message issued in the monarch's name, stressed that Charles remained sovereign. He had not abdicated, meaning formally surrendered the throne, and no immediate transfer of the crown had occurred. Instead, the Waleses now carried unprecedented responsibility for shaping the next reign, giving the public a future to believe in, while the present monarch still ruled. Britain divided almost instantly. Supporters celebrated William and Catherine as steady figures who had earned trust through discipline, family unity, and restraint. Others felt sympathy for Camilla, whose reduced influence could no longer be hidden behind ceremonial language. The Queen had kept her title and duties, but the future had moved elsewhere. That contrast turned triumph into pain, because one couple's rise had exposed another woman's loss. William watched the coverage beside Catherine at Kensington Palace. When a broadcaster called the announcement the beginning of the next reign, the prince reached for the remote. She gently stopped his hand. Catherine understood that turning off the television would not silence the burden. He understood that millions were already measuring every expression, every pause, and every choice against the future now placed upon them. Outside Buckingham Palace, the reaction became impossible to contain. A newspaper vendor raised an emergency edition, carrying the headline, "Charles chooses his future, William and Catherine alone." A crowd gathered beneath the balcony, and applause began near the Victoria Memorial, before spreading across the forecourt. The monument, built to honor Queen Victoria, became the center of a public celebration, announcing another royal era. Camilla still kept her promise. At a scheduled engagement, Charles stepped from the car first. The Queen paused, then took his arm, and faced the cameras beside him. Her composure protected the king, even as it confirmed her defeat before a nation watching closely. No smile could hide what the day had taken. The palace then announced that Charles, William, Catherine, and Camilla would appear together that evening. The moment would either expose the fracture or seal the new order. When the palace doors finally opened that evening, the family's smallest gestures delivered the verdict more powerfully than any proclamation ever could. The evening appearance lasted less than 3 minutes, yet it completed what the private declaration had begun. Charles stepped forward first, not as a weakened king surrendering his place, but as a father accepting the limits of his reign. William and Catherine stood together at his right. Camilla remained beside him at his left. There was no rivalry in the arrangement now, only a clear division between the present and the CROWNS, future. Charles entered with Camilla and then paused for William and Catherine. Instead of leaving them behind, the king gestured for the couple to stand level with him. That small movement carried weight, because royal placement signals rank, trust, and belonging. The succession decision, meaning the formal plan for preparing the next reign, had ended the era of competing courts and private influence. The future would now be shaped jointly by the prince and his wife. William remained with his father after the appearance. Charles admitted that he should have trusted his son earlier, before hesitation allowed rivalry to grow. The future king answered that he had never wanted to steal the reign or push the monarch aside. He had wanted only his father's confidence. For the first time that day, the king's shoulders softened, and the distance between them began closing. Catherine approached Camilla before leaving. She thanked the queen for standing beside the family, when withdrawing would have been easier. Camilla accepted the words without pretending the day had not hurt. She told Catherine to protect the crown without allowing it to harden her. The future queen understood that this was not surrender alone. It was a warning born from experience. Catherine returned to Kensington Palace with William and placed the disputed memorandum into the fireplace. A memorandum was an internal document recording advice or proposed action, and this one had helped trigger the crisis. The prince watched as the pages curled and disappeared. No copy would remain to revive the campaign. Charles had chosen them for more than rank, popularity, or bloodline. William understood duty even when it frightened him. Catherine carried responsibility without losing compassion. Together, they offered stability without cruelty. The king secured his place in history by preparing what would follow him. Camilla kept her dignity but surrendered control. The prince accepted the burden, while his wife emerged as the monarchy's moral center. And as the palace lights faded, the verdict was complete. Charles had not merely named the people who would inherit the crown, he had ensured they were finally ready to deserve it. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.